Good evening. This is episode 11 of Pixel Heart Duo. As always, I am Frick.
And I am Fox.
That is her. So tonight we're going to have kind of an interesting episode. We're going to talk a little bit about handheld accessories. We are not going to touch on the Switch. It's an accessory, but it's also a console. We're also going to talk about game launches. This is the time of the year when launch schedules start coming out and people start getting excited, and so there are some games that have done it really well, and have honestly revived brands, have like sent console launches screaming into the stratosphere, and there's other games that they launched and some of them never recovered. So
Wah, wah.
yeah, I'm pretty excited to rant about a couple of these titles, not gonna lie. Like, go back in for seconds. But yeah, so I don't know what are your thoughts on kind of some of the stuff we're covering tonight before we kind of dive into the meat and potatoes of it.
Well, remote play, streaming devices, that's the world that we live in now, right?
Yeah.
People don't want to be tethered to one location, and so it's a bit exciting to go over a couple of these products that most people don't necessarily think about, because
Mm.
everybody knows that the Switch has the portable aspect on lock. So,
Yeah.
it being a fantastic console that it is. However, there's a couple of other things that might be worth checking out, or might not be. I don't know. Or our opinions could differ. There could be some drama.
Yeah, they might. You never know. I know we've talked about some of this stuff in the past kind of just privately, but in kind of going at it in an official capacity, yeah, yeah, we'll have to see. But I mean, both consoles offer remote play. You can just boot up the app on your phone. You can play, Xbox remote play. You can play PlayStation remote play. You can play your Game Pass. Personally, I am not a fan of PlayStation's remote play simply because it seems kind of wonky on my phone. I had an iPhone 11 when I was trying it, and my PS4, it was like it would just not connect. And then when I got a PS5, it had a really hard time. Like, I could be sitting on the couch next to the console, like, someone wanted to watch a movie and I wanted to play FIFA, so I would get it on my phone, and either it wouldn't connect or it would be super laggy. Like, I couldn't play anything other than just your basic sports game or something that didn't involve. So I think both Microsoft and Sony understood that there was a market for handheld remote play peripherals and accessories. One of the most popular ones, and I'll cover the PlayStation version first, is the Backbone. And for those of you who have not seen it before, the Backbone is essentially just two Joy-Cons smashed together, and you can stick your phone on it, and you can adjust it a little bit based on your phone size. The PlayStation one was inspired by the look and feel of the PlayStation DualSense wireless controller. It transforms your iPhone or your Android device into the ultimate gaming console. Snap in your phone and play any game or service that supports controllers, including Apple Arcade, GeForce Now, or even stream from PlayStation with PS Remote Play or PC. The Backbone app organizes your content library and game streaming services into an integrated user experience. Uncover a new world of premium gaming in seconds. I've seen it. I haven't actually used it. I know people who have used the Xbox version more, which you'll cover. I will say, as a note for both of these, you can use them without a phone. You can use them without a mobile device and just use it as a controller. My question is, why would you then just not buy a controller? It's less expensive. But yeah, and I mean, the compatibility, it has compatibility with the iPhone 6s all the way up to the 14. Now you can play with Android devices and iPhone 15s with USB-C connections because Apple wisened up and said, "Oh, we're not doing Lightning connections anymore." So that's kind of one option for remote play if your phone is just a little too small, you got a little bit bigger hands, or you just like the feel of a controller, and it feels more like a Switch dimension as well, which is definitely nice.
So a couple of things um, with the X, you do have to specify um, which backbone you want. You can't get a backbone because backbone it's actually a third party. It's not Microsoft nor Sony, um, but you do have to specify. So if you're getting an Xbox backbone, there you go. Same with PlayStation or Sony. Sorry, my nose is itching. Um, I think when it comes to these two, when it comes to this particular, um, I don't know, device, whatever you want to call it, I feel I kind of lean towards that Game Pass is a little more friendly with the backbone. Um, and, you know, the good news is that because it's off of cellular data, because you're, on your cell phone or whatever, um, there is more, there is an actual portability functionality to it. Like you can actually like take it and go play other things. Do not think though, I'm gonna be on a plane and I'm gonna, get this thing so I can play video games on the plane. Then work in airplane mode, FYI.
Yeah.
So those were a couple of things that I noticed about it. Um, and just my initial thoughts. I've seen both I've seen both Game Pass as well as PlayStation Plus in motion with their backbones. And I'm just gonna be honest, I feel like Xbox kind of did this transition a little better than Sony did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What are some pros and cons, like other pros and cons that you can kind of think of between getting a backbone and getting something else, or just using your phone, you know, on its own, like things you can think about.
I mean, it was because it does go off of the your cell towers and stuff like that. If you've got limited bars, not really good reception, wherever you are, obviously that's going to affect your gameplay because you are streaming. You're not playing it off your phone. Um,
Yeah.
so the game is not locally installed. So that's definitely gonna kind of put a damper on your game experience there. If towers are dropping and that kind of thing. Um, you're also working off of, depending on the phone you have, you're also working off of a pretty small screen. Um, when you think about it, I mean, I know our phones seem huge, but when you're talking about, some of these, you know, massive open world titles, you might lose some kind of experience with the itty bitty screen. Um,
Yeah.
those were a couple of the upfront cons.
Mm-hmm.
One of the pros is that since you are playing it off your accounts, your game progression is saved. So if you're out and about and you're at the doctor's office all day doing tests or whatever, and you're using this to play, when you get back to your home console, your progression in the games that you've played will be there. I watched a guy play an entire Fortnite match on his backbone. So That's a thing. And it was actually pretty cool. He wasn't that good. I don't know if that was the backbone's fault or his fault, but you know, we'll blame it on the backbone.
No, no, user error. He's definitely the user. Yeah, no. I mean, it's not the only only kid in town. There are other options for Xbox. However, Sony has released a new official peripheral. Came out recently. It was very hard to find. Thank you, scalpers. It's always fun getting new products. Looking at you, Lurkana. But that is the PlayStation Portal. Um, you can experience PlayStation gaming on the fly with cutting edge PlayStation Portal remote player designed for the PlayStation 5 console. Seamlessly connect via Wi Fi and immerse yourself in your favorite games directly from your library, all while maintaining quality on the Portal's impressive 8-inch LCD screen with a stunning 1080p resolution and smooth FPS gameplay of 60 frames per second. I don't know if you could say it's stunning 1080p, but I guess for handheld, cool. Escape the confines of traditional gaming and embrace unrestricted mobility with the PlayStation Portal's built-in adaptive triggers and haptic feedback capabilities. This innovative device empowers you to break free from limitations, ensuring an unparalleled on-the-go gaming experience. Now, I will say, you had one come into your store. It felt great in the hand. And I thought to myself, as a Sony fanboy, man, why the hell would I buy this? Like, you know, the screen is fantastic. It's a beautiful screen. It feels great. It feels like you're holding like a PlayStation. Like, it feels like if PlayStation made a Switch. It feels good. Like, the haptic feedback on the triggers feels great. Like, it just looks amazing. The screen is vibrant, and I'm going, why the hell would I buy this? It's almost $200. Like, I don't get it. And like, the Wi-Fi is terrible. Like, the connectivity, you have to have a very good Wi-Fi connection in order for it to work. And suffice to say, at least where we live, they've got 1 gig internet, they've got 10 gig internet, and Wi-Fi still sucks. The town I live in, they don't like towers, they don't like signal boosters, they like to keep it beautiful. And so it's like, do I really want to pay $200 just to say I own a PlayStation Portal? And on top of that, it was hard to find for the longest time. So it's like, I mean, when am I ever going to use
it? Still is.
Yeah.
It still is.
It's like, when am I ever going to use this thing? Like, I could spend $100 on a backbone, or I could spend $200 on a Portal, get a bigger screen. I will say my iPhone is like, you know, 5.5 inches screen, 5.7 inches, whatever the iPhone 15 is. Like, yeah, you know what? The Portal has a nice big screen, but again, for the third time, as a Sony fanboy, which I think I'm actually like falsifying that claim with every episode we do. More and more, I become less and less of a Sony fanboy. Maybe it's just because I'm getting old, but why the hell would I buy a Portal? Like, I don't see until they improve the firmware, like they improve the hardware to really take advantage of less than stellar Wi-Fi. Why the hell am I gonna buy one? Like, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, you know, a couple of things. Um, a lot of people have come in asking for the new Sony portable. This is most definitely a misnomer because it is, when the second you hold it and look at it and handle it, it is not designed to be portable. First and foremost, Sony themselves say that it will work better on your home network. Now, you can use it as a remote player on any Wi-Fi, any Wi-Fi hotspot. However, you have to have a really good, strong signal in order for it to be usable. So Sony themselves say use it at home because that's going to be your best experience. Number two, about the portability myth, and I'm going to call it that. is the screen. While the handheld part of it, if you can imagine, it's like they took the DualSense controller, which is a phenomenal controller, by the way. Like I am Xbox through and through. As you guys know, I voted with my dollars and went Microsoft with this past Christmas. But I will say that when it comes to controllers, that PlayStation controller, the DualSense, is amazing. So when you think about, basically they split a DualSense controller in half and then put a screen in the middle, it feels good with the grips. However, the screen actually feels and looks flimsy. Um, it's got nice resolution and all that kind of stuff. They don't. It's a unique size that they don't make a screen protector for. It's a unique size that they don't make a portal like carry case for. Like, I mean, Switch and Steam Deck and all, like, you can get carry cases designed for them. You will not find a PlayStation Portal carry case. And because of that, like it's without touching it, it's hard for you to imagine. But if you got one, if you held one, you would know exactly what I'm talking about when I say you are not tossing this in your briefcase and, running out the door. You're not. Where do I think that this would be a good use? I was trying to kind of dig into some personal experience here. Frick loves his horror movies, and I am a big weenie when it comes to horror movies. So I could see myself, like, playing something on a portal, so that I can, be in the same room, maybe like turning it turned away from the TV. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's a personal use that, we can test out or whatever. But then you're balanced, then you get smacked with or just yet another, what I find a con, is in order to use the headset function, you have to use, you guessed it, the Sony like 3 pulse headset. It does not work with any other Bluetooth headset. It's got to be there. Like, they want you in their proprietary little clutches. Sony, do better. Anyway, those are some. That is my long answer to a very short question.
Yeah, so if you could sum it up in just to like one final take in terms of all three of these products, what would it be?
I just really didn't think that the Portal lived up to its hype. So many people, mistakenly calling it the PlayStation Portable. No, it's really not. For the price tag, scalpers, whatever, you're dealing trash. Like, stop it. It's not worth $600. And I don't know. I think the idea is good. I just think it needs to cook a little more. I would maybe wait another iteration or two if Sony continues to make them. But yeah, I'd wait on the Portal. However, I did dismiss the Backbone straight away. When I first heard about it, first saw it, I was like, "What is this thing? Like, whatever. Like, the screen's so small. What are you gonna do with it?" I don't know. I'm actually kind of starting to entertain the idea of that. That might be a course for the Xbox One. I'll shill for them. It's good. It's fine.
Shameless shilling. That's what you are doing. Yes. No. I mean, I feel the same way. I don't like how people are thinking that this is a new Sony portable. Um, I am a big fan. Like I said, I am a fanboy. I love everything Sony. I had a Vita. I had two Vitas. I had a PlayStation. I had two PlayStation portables, like PSPs. I loved those systems. I feel like there's a market for it, especially with the Switch and the fact that the rumored Switch 2 is just gonna like even more dig into the on the go playing. Like Xbox, they don't have a handheld, but you can play Game Pass games without even having an Xbox. Like if they're on your account and you're able to play them on mobile, like we were talking to, one of the higher ups at a local game store, and he said, I don't even have an Xbox, but I have a Game Pass subscription, and when my son's at his football games or practices, I just pull up my Game Pass on my phone and I play. And he's like, I might get an Xbox down the line, but I don't need one. And it's like, yeah. And so I mean, a backbone would be great for that, because it's not like the Portal, which is just an extension of your PlayStation console. It's its own thing, and like it plugs into your phone. You can use it. You don't even need to have a backbone. Like you can support Xbox. Get Microsoft, get Game Pass, and that's that. So until Sony releases an actual like mobile console, I don't see me owning a Portal. Like it just, I can spend that $200 elsewhere. I can buy multiple controllers for my console of choice for that same price. But that's just me.
And with a backbone, you can have a screen protector, which is vital for anybody with children. Or klutzy hands, which, I may or may not be fall under that category.
No comment. No comment. Yeah. So take with that what you will, dear viewers, dear listeners. But so we are going to move into the topic for tonight. It's going to take up a little bit longer time. Hopefully, we won't get too animated about some of these titles. Some of them are very painful. But we are going to cover a couple of the best recent gaming launches. And they are not like necessarily because the game was perfect, the launch was perfect, yada yada yada, was perfect, but it was because it had multiple, multiple like compounding domino effects of like why it was. And then we're going to cover even more of the worst recent gaming launches. In today's news cycle, they always focus on the negative of the positive. I try to be a positive thinker. But for recent gaming launches, because game developers and console developers like to have the quote-unquote live service model where they release half-done games and then go, yeah, we'll update it with DLC and make it a complete game for $30 next year. There are a lot more negative. So we'll start with the positive. One of
Well,
the...
and as
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and as every gamer knows, launch day is especially for a hugely anticipated game, is like we take days off from work, we take vacations, we, to experience the joy. And, for those of us who have played games like World of Warcraft and all that, the expansion launch days or whatever, you spend like 90% of the day waiting for the servers to come back up after crashing.
Looking at you,
But
Blizzard.
so we did want to cover this and give a nod to it a little bit, simply because it's the experience that we've all we've all done the midnight release parties, for, well, I didn't do it for Call of Duty because meh, but but we've all had those experiences in our gaming career, and it's something exciting to look forward to. So when it's great, it's really great. And when it, falls flat, it's bad.
Yeah, and I mean the gaming culture is big, and launches have been that way for years. The Japanese culture are they have massive interest in video game. I mean, it's the birthplace of Nintendo. It's the birthplace of Sony. Like, even Sega tried their hand in the '90s and they kind of failed because it's like the litmus test. Like, I'm actually reading a book on like how Mario saved Nintendo, like right now, and you know the Japanese culture, they have a rule that states developers cannot release large titles like Dragon Warrior on weekdays because people will call out sick from work to start leveling up immediately. So they have to release them on Saturday or Sunday. Like, when you have a good launch, you have a good launch. And Dragon Warrior is a Nintendo title. I have the original Dragon Warrior in my cabinet back there. But another, or I guess the first of the best recent gaming launches I'm going to cover, came out on the Nintendo Switch, and that is The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. After Skyward Sword, it was clear that the Zelda series needed a bit of a shakeup. People were tired of the same 3D Zelda formula, and Breath of the Wild was exactly what the series needed. Going back to the roots of the first game, Breath of the Wild gives you a massive world to explore with no restrictions. After the beginning areas, you can head straight to Ganon if you want to. The open world design and various elements like cooking and climbing have become very influential to many games after this. Breath of the Wild was truly the next Ocarina of Time and the next evolution of the series. And Tears of the Kingdom just continued on that. Zelda wasn't by any means dead, but I mean, interest was kind of waning. Like, it was a flagship Nintendo title. It had been a flagship Nintendo title since Super Mario Brothers. Like, it was one of the next Nintendo games that they developed, like, on the heels of that to kind of, like, innovate. So, Zelda really wasn't going to go anywhere, but it was kind of getting a little bit stale. Like, the formula was getting stale. The only thing I have an issue with Breath of the Wild is weapon durability. It feels like your weapons just break way too much. But it was revolutionary. I still remember the first time I booted it up and I walked off after the starting area and I looked at like on the cliff and I just looked out over the map and like it was kind of like Mufasa and Simba, like anywhere the sun only it was like anywhere I can put my eyes on, I can go right now. And it was just like it was game changing. People, there was a reason why Breath of the Wild was game of the year. There's a reason why people could not stop talking about it and put hundreds of hours into this game exploring every nook and cranny, and then there's other people that would beat it in 12 minutes. Like, woo. Like, admittedly, I tried to play Breath of the Wild the same time I had Super Mario Odyssey, and so I was juggling a couple of games at once, and then I just kind of let the balls fall. So I have to go back and finish it. I have to finish Tears of the Kingdom. But as a Zelda fan, I won't say I'm a fanboy because I am more of a Mario fan. It is definitely the right direction. They're going to need to shake it up a little bit going forward. They cannot just start repeating the formula, with Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. I don't know that's air, that's water. So then I guess like Flames of the Bathroom. I don't know what they're gonna do next, but they need to like revolutionize it or at least tweak the formula a little bit. I know you don't have a ton of experience with the game directly, but I know indirectly, you've heard a lot of the same things.
Oh, the Zelda franchise in general just has this fan base that they are so loving and so dedicated. And it's funny, some of you out there might be lifting your eyebrow going, I thought this chick was a gamer. How does she not have a lot of experience with Zelda? Let me clarify some things. Number one, I don't have a lot of experience playing Zelda. I have none. So let's be clear on that one. Number two, the reason why I have zero experience with Zelda is because it is actually a game series that I know. I would fall in love with. And I would lose my life too. Like, you know, I don't know. It would be like 6 weeks, and then somebody might be like, where's Fox been? Anybody seen her? Anybody checked in on her? Is she okay? that that is the only reason why I've never touched a Zelda game. There's a couple of titles like that. Kingdom Hearts is another one. I know I will love it, so I just don't touch it. Um, yeah, it's yeah. I'm trying to alleviate that. I'm trying to bypass that addiction, that pre-addiction, because I know it would happen.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. Fair enough.
So, um, but yeah, I was not surprised to find that that they continue to crank out really really great games that people can fall in love with and enjoy and be a part of. Another series similar, well, not it's not similar to Zelda in that sense, but similar in the sense that it has a following that people that are very very fanatic about the Yakuza uh, series. They just dropped the Like a Dragon not that long ago. The Yakuza franchise was running out of steam a bit after the Dragon Engine titles felt like a step down from the likes of Zero or Five. The beat 'em up action just felt worse, but the seventh main installment arrived to save the day. While the whole genre shifted to JRPG was risky, it's exactly what everyone needed. It felt incredibly refreshing to not only the series, but to other AAA RPGs out there at the time. The new cast of characters were great, and Ichiban is worthy of filling Kiryu's place as the protagonist. Launch titles were pretty barren for at the time. So again, it was one of those games that just kind of like, oh yeah, that's right. Xbox Series X. Ooh, Yakuza. It was good for that exclusivity. So that was kind of a kind of breathed a little bit of life into everything, like a dragon. Debatably the best launch title for either system in 2020. Um, the What's funny about so this is a this is a franchise that I have played. These are titles that I have experience with, and it's really funny because they're not my usual forte. As you know, Frick, I have like this like gore sort of like I kind of steer away from horror movies. I steer away from, overly like violent, gory things because I don't know that they affect me a little different. But I don't know. This is one I actually find pretty enjoyable. So the whole franchise is actually one that I really enjoy. And Like a Dragon definitely re-sparked that interest. Honestly, before Like a Dragon came out, I kind of forgotten about it. And then I was like, oh yeah. And so once I finish this one, I have every intentions of going back and playing through the other ones again because I've forgotten how much I loved the franchise. So those are my thoughts. What about you?
Yeah, and I mean, and this current gen of consoles kind of suffered, because it came out right as the pandemic was happening. So
Mm,
a lot of people are going, man, we're like 4 years into this cycle, like, or almost 4 years into the current gen cycle, and it doesn't even feel like it's like spun up. Like Todd Howard has come out and said, we're aiming for 2028 for our next console, and he actually then said, okay, well, we're actually probably looking more like 2026, 2027. But like, usually you have a 6 year period in between console releases, and Like a Dragon gave Xbox that like push forward, the Series S and the Series X. Like, it had a definitive current gen advanced title. Sony suffered from the same thing. I mean, you had Spider-Man, you had other, like Horizon Forbidden West. You could play on the PS4 or PS5 when Cyberpunk launched. PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series S, Series X. Um, but Like a Dragon was like, boom, it put Xbox like forward, and they were like, we have our next gen title, and it was nice because the problem that I have with Xbox is that they don't have very many exclusives because it's a Microsoft console. So you've got PC, Windows, and you've got Xbox. And a lot of times Microsoft plays a lot friendlier with people than Sony does. You know, the Japanese culture of kind of like having our stuff and like not, Nintendo for years. I mean, you want to go back and talk about pettiness, like some of the agreements they had, some of the contracts they had with these developers before Sega came out with the Genesis. Like, they were crushing and crippling. Sony does not like to play nice. They don't really like cross-play platforms or cross-platform play. So when Like a Dragon came out, it was really nice because then Xbox was like, we've got, one of a few console exclusives for Xbox. Like, this is one of the reasons why you should invest in Series S or Series X. Obviously, it played better on Series X. A lot of these next gen titles, because they were trying to, they weren't truly next gen titles, so they were developing them for PS4 and Xbox One, and that a lot of times it suffered from performance, or you didn't see an upgrade. So it's like, why am I going to buy a Series X if it plays the same? Like, meh. But Like a Dragon, it really kind of revitalized the series. And the newest one that just came out, it is getting hailed as a really good game and a step forward again. So I mean, it's one of those titles. These two titles together, they kind of just breathed a breath of fresh air, no pun intended. Like a Dragon and Breath of the Wild. I didn't mean to make that pun, but cool. They really they were great launches, and they were complete games at launch that only were made more completer later on with patches and updates. When you were buying these games, you were buying these games. You were not buying live service. And so that's where we're heading into for some of these worst recent gameplay or gaming launches. There are many to choose from. Believe me, there are many. Like Fallout 76.
Many have tried.
Many have tried. Many have failed. Yeah. Fallout 76 is one that comes to mind. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is another one that comes to mind. Do not get me started on the Battlefront series. And Cyberpunk, these are low-hanging fruit. These are easy to punch. We're going to go even lower at this low-hanging fruit. A game so nice, we're
not above it.
No, this is a game so nice, a bad launch so nice, we talked about it 2 times. Thought I was going to rhyme. And that is the 2016 launch of No Man's Sky. It is one of the more ambitious games to come out in the 2010s. In it, players explore science fiction worlds, gather resources, and build spaceships, all with the goal of exploring the mysterious Atlas. But the game's big draw is that it tries to offer nearly an infinite procedurally generated universe, including more than a quintillion planets. Think about how many commas are in that comma club, with each of their own unique flora and fauna. Hello Games creator Sean Murray admits he might have overhyped the game before it launched. When it did come out, many reviewers felt the game was repetitive and surprisingly empty of content despite its settings. I cannot tell you the number of gray planets I landed on where there just wasn't anything. Then, a smaller, angrier subset of fans expressed their displeasure with Murray and his company Hello Games by sending death threats. Despite all of that, No Man's Sky is an example of a game that was considered a flop at first, but then later was redeemed. Developer and publisher Hello Games has continually improved the gameplay and released substantial free updates. It is an amazing game, but I don't care about that because it had a horrific launch. Like, I bought the game and I was like, what the and then I remember, like, they talked about it was going to take you months to reach the center of the galaxy, and some guy was like, yeah, I did it in less than a week. And it was like, what? And then, like, they're talking about like you couldn't see your friends, and this is something like you were going to go on a grand adventure together, and you're like, okay, number one, it's so big I can't even find my friends, and number two, it's so big I'm running into the same planets over and over again where there's just nothing. Like, it was a terrible launch, and it was like no promises got kept. Things just felt like it felt so empty, and it was just kind of like what are you trying to pull on us right now? And so now it's a fantastic game. Like, I'll go back and play it. Like, it has such replayability. Like, cool. But in 2016, it was the floppiest of flops, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
It does have a rather inspiring redemptive arc to the story.
Nobody cares
I
about
think
good news, though.
I think it was a fantastic example of developers listening to people instead of saying, making up the like working as intended. No, it's not, fool. I'm not dumb. Don't tell me that. So, but they actually did listen and fix. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we talked about No Man's Sky in a previous episode, so we're not going to go in too hard on it. There are three more that we're going to talk about. I got two of these because I got a bone to pick with these two. I'm going to cover one, you're going to cover one, then I'm going to cover another one. And I'm saving it for last, it's strategically. But the next one we're going to talk about, I bought the collector's edition of this. I bought all the bells and whistles. I am still, like, I see the name of this game, and I just, like, I want to just, like, rip a Barbie's head off. Like, I was so amped for this game after I played, like, the little beta. They had, like, the free weekend to test it out. You get invited to it. Like, people are like, oh, I want to get it. Like, you got into it. When this 2019 title launched, within 2 years it was dead. I would even argue within 6 months it was dead. Now, you might be going, okay, just shut up already and tell us the title. That title, and please steel yourselves for those of you who have played this game before, just take a minute. That title is Anthem. The Dragon Age and Mass Effect franchises are some of the most beloved games of the 2000s. So when developer BioWare tried its hand at creating an online action role-playing game, the anticipation was high. That's an understatement. But many felt that just because BioWare was behind a game, it doesn't guarantee it will be perfect at launch. I mean, every developer suffers from that. CD Projekt Red was the darling, and then Cyberpunk came out. So, anyways, in Anthem, players control a customizable freelancer on a futuristic planet that battles a power-hungry faction called the Dominion. Like many online RPGs, the big draws are the customization options and the loot. It's just a blast to design your character to be an unstoppable killing machine with impeccable style. There's no one reason why Anthem had a lackluster 54% positive rating on Metacritic, which, for what the game looked like and what it played like in that free weekend, it's like... At launch, the game experienced server problems and offered an unsatisfying loot system. Quests were generic and overly complicated. Then, Kotaku published a report alleging the game's development was plagued by disagreements and, quote, stress casualties, end quote. After its launch in February 2019, BioWare attempted to salvage the game through a series of updates. Nearly a year later, the company promised a substantial reinvention of the game. However, in 2021, BioWare decided to stop all development and reassign developers to the next Dragon Age and Mass Effect projects. Now, Mass Effect, they released the remastered series. They have not released a new Mass Effect title, so that's kind of damning that, like, less than 2 years later, they just took those developers and were like, here, go work on the next Mass Effect project. Wink, wink. Like, Anthem was one of those games where it launched and I was so flipping excited. It was gorgeous. Like, the controls were great. Like, you just felt like your character just felt powerful. Like, that first time you just took off and launched and, you're flying around the environment. It just felt like a title that was like, this has staying power. Like, this Destiny ain't got nothing on Anthem. Like, freelancers, like, whew, you got your 4 different classes, like, you got your 4 different styles of play, and then you can just branch out as you get more stuff and have subclasses. Like, Anthem was going to be like that game, and then it just wasn't. And within 3 months, it was on the bargain bins. Like, you could buy the collector's edition for like 75% off because it just fell so hard on its face. Its face never recovered to the point where BioWare was like, "Yep, we're done." Um, and I still have it in my library because I got the digital copy with the collector's edition. I can't even look at it. I have to scroll past it on my library because I instantly get agitated at what it could have been. That launch was so bad. You talk about server issues. The server issues, like, it wasn't letting people in for days, and like 25% of the game's population was able to play at any given time. And then you would get booted off, and then you couldn't reconnect for days at a time. Like, it was awful, and it pissed me off something fierce.
Working as intended.
Oh man.
To those of you still hanging on to your copies, stop trying to trade them in. Please. Please. The number of people I have to turn away and say, no, we don't take this game.
12 cents in store credit and pocket lens, all you're going to get.
Not even 12 cents. You have to pay us to take the game. That's how that works now. Oh man. So our next time, speaking of people coming in to drop off or pick up their games, Skull and Bones. The new pirate game that just took forever to come out. Literally. Originally announced in 2013. Yes, 2013. That's 11 years ago. My math is mathing. As an expansion for Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and later spin off into its own title in 2017. Experienced not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 4, but 5 delays. 2018 to 2019 to 2020 to 2021, 2022, and finally, it has now dropped in Q1 2024. 11 years later. Now, usually on release day, like we talked about how, what a magical day launch day is for a well-anticipated game. People come in and they're excited and they're smiling and they're like, yes, I get to play. I'm so excited. Princess Peach, that launch day, that's how people will be. Skull and Bones launch day, they looked haggard. They looked like it's been 84 years. And they came in and they were like, I put my deposit on this game back in 2022. I bought this Steelbook edition back in 2022 and paid full price. They were not happy. They were not happy. So I don't know if they were trying to distance themselves from Sea of Thieves. They didn't want to launch in the thick of all of that, or whatever. I don't know the whole. But yeah, when you turn your fan base that is excited into like really like resentful, like, give me my damn game. Yeah, you missed the mark a little bit on that one. So that makes the list on worst launches.
Yeah, and I have nothing really to add to that. because we have one final title on the list, and this is a title that you thought Anthem pissed me off. I haven't invested in this title. I have had many, many, many friends. I had a friend that dropped $250 on a Founders Pack in this title, and I consider it an absolute waste of money. You talk about a 2013 announcement. Try a 2011 announcement with a early access and development since 2012 with no launch date in sight. It's raised over $500 million without ever actually having the game being completed or officially launched. It has had a spin-off title, but again, it's been in early access since 2012. That's 12 years of early access with no launch date in sight. Now, what is the title I'm talking about? I'll give you guys about 3 seconds to just curse it, yell it out before I say it very calmly. That game is Star Citizen. You probably heard of it. It's been memed into the ground. Talk about a swindle job. Talk about a heist. Like, it is a good title. It is beautiful. It is gorgeous. The fact that they were offering these $50 packs, these $100 packs, these $250 packs where you got these ships, you got this, you were going to get this, you were going to get out of here, you're going to get on this, your name here, you're going to do that. They're laughing all the way to the bank. Over $500 million on a game that is not finished, and people continue to put money into it. Now, for those people who have been playing the entire time, they are getting an experience. But you want to talk about the epitome of live service gaming gone wrong or right, depending on what side of the fence you're hanging out on. Star Citizen has had such a bad launch that it hasn't even launched yet and probably never will officially launch. You want to talk about bad launches? I saved this for last because it never will launch and they're still getting money from people. Like, holy
the launch
crap.
that didn't launch.
It's just the launchiest of launches. It's so bad of a launch. They're trolling you every day. They get another dollar from another person. And like I said, it's not necessarily that it is a bad title. I've watched my friends play it. I refused to spend money until it came out because I wanted to see it. It was almost like they kept like, okay, it's gonna get released at this point. Okay, we're gonna come out at early access at this point. Okay, we're actually gonna have a spin-off title. Now we're gonna have another spin-off. And it's like, you know what? I'm gonna just vote with my wallet and I'm gonna wait and see what happens. And guess what? It's still not launched. It's still in early access. It's still in development. It is the epitome of live service. And I mean, like, I don't think anybody's going to be able to pull that off ever again because of the sheer just absurdity that is Star Citizen. Like, it's just, like, give me a break.
I think that the launch that just never happened, that, that could be a book. The launch that never happened. And it would just be like 150 pages of angst and screaming and anger. It could be therapeutic. I think that definitely takes the cake on the worst launch in gaming history.
And there's so many to choose from recently. Like,
it just didn't.
And I mean, there's just the bigger overarching problem is the fact that these developers don't release complete games. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'm gonna show for it again. You talked about developers listening to people. Pal World, it has its share of problems. The official servers have been taken over by hackers. It's still in early access, and the devs are listening. So there are still developers out there that do listen to their people. They had a post where it was like, if this post gets 300,000 upvotes, we'll add sex to the game. And people were like, silly developers, there's already breeding. And they're like, no, you misunderstand. Like, so I mean, they're even having fun with it. Like, and like they've got, Love Ender, pal number 69, where they're talking about they got tired of, banging pals, so now they moved out to humans. Like, they have, like, just hacks that you can do, like, packs, downloadable packs you can add to, like, make characters bigger, smaller, cuter, change features, yada, yada, yada. But it's in early access. The developer is listening. They do plan on doing a full release. So there are good developers out there. The problem is the big ones like Ubisoft, Blizzard, Activision, Electronic Arts. Like, I threw up in my mouth a little bit saying that. Like, just these big developers, BioWare, CD Projekt Red now, like, they will recover maybe, but they're getting our money for unreleased, or unfinished, half-released games, and we continue to give them money. Even Square Enix. Not only am I a Sony fanboy, I'm a SquareSoft and Square Enix fanboy. Final Fantasy 14, like, the launch was so bad they had to scrap it and relaunch the game again a year later. Like, and people are playing it. It's the second biggest MMO after World of Warcraft. It might actually be bigger now than WoW, because WoW has been bleeding numbers for like the last, I don't know, 46 years. Like, but yeah, it's like people are okay with this, and like they talk with their mouths but they vote with their wallets, and they continue to support. Like, Electronic Arts, EA, is laughing with every NBA release, every WWE release with 2K, 2K games, like with Madden and with FIFA, and like they're doing minimal updates. The games come out buggy, they come out with broken features, and people still shell out money for them. Like, Call of Duties, they're alternating between like two or three publishers, two or three developers, and the games is like it alternates a awful one with a good one, an awful one with a good one, but even the good ones have bad launches, server issues, hackers almost immediately, bugs and problems, and it's like this never happened. Well, very rarely did it happen 10, 15, 20 years ago. Like, and we're just okay with this. So, yeah, that's the bigger problem, is the fact that there are so many more bad launches than there are good launches, because developers are like, you're going to pay us anyways, so we'll get around to fixing the game eventually. But, like Diablo 3 ended up being a good game, but people still think it sucks because it was so bad for so long.
Well, I think Diablo 3 was a unique situation because we waited for Diablo 3 forever. And then that's what we got. That, you know, um, and I'm just saying, we didn't have these problems with cartridges. The, but yes, at the end of the day, developers launch complete games. Don't give us half a game and then 3 months later make us buy the DLC to fix all the things that shouldn't have been broken when the game launched. Like, that's kind of BS. You guys can do better. Gamers, we can do better by not contributing. Like, if they're not going to release a complete game, let's just not buy it. It's that simple.
Yep, exactly. And that is a good place to end this 11th episode of the podcast, which, funnily enough, is currently our longest episode so far. Like I said, people don't care about good news, they care about bad news. And man, did I go off about a couple of these titles. But that is it. You can catch us on YouTube on the VODs. Just look up Frickin' Fox LLC. You can see us right here on Twitch Wednesday nights at 8:30-ish Mountain Standard Time. We will release the VOD on Friday on our YouTube channel. We also are anywhere you get your audio fix, whether that be Spotify, Apple Music, Google Music, iHeartRadio. I always miss at least half of them. It goes up everywhere Friday the same time the VOD goes up. You can support us there. You can get your fix. You can listen to it in the car. You can watch it, put it on in the background. Our soothing voices, both of us. But we will catch you guys next week. I am Frick.
And I am Fox.
And we will catch you guys next Wednesday.
Peace.